World champions or bred a horse of the year, but Bob Joy is as much an iconic member of the association as many of his friends who wear championship buckles. In fact, it's because of Joy's work behind the scenes that all members can vie for buckles, prize money, and the run of their dreams. For more than 30 years, Joy has overseen the selection, procurement, sorting, and management of cattle used by NCHA-sponsored events. Because of his decades of work, Bob Joy is now a member of the NCHA Members Hall of Fame. For the casual observer, filling the role as head of cattle procurement might not sound too difficult. However, Joy dedicates long, hard hours to a myriad of weather conditions to ensure every cutter has fresh, quality calves with which to display the talents of their horse. Gathering upwards of 9,000 head of uniform, quality cattle for a show is no small feat. Months before an event, Joy and others on the cattle committee travel to various ranches and stalker operations looking for cattle. But that's only the beginning. Joy maintains contact with his cattlemen, making sure everything is healthy and ready to go before the show. He helps gather the cattle, then sorts and inspects each one individually. Then there's the time spent lining up trucks to haul each load in and out of the facility. Despite all the challenges of the task, Joy wouldn't trade his role for anything. In addition to his role at NCHA, Joy and his wife Beth also manage Helen Grove's ranch in Crescent, Texas. The couple have two daughters, Cindy Joy and Sarah Ernest, and grandsons BJ and Houston Ernest. At 75 years young, Joy said he hasn't given retirement much of a thought.
Ladies and gentlemen, the newest member of the NCHA Hall of Fame, Bob Joy.
That's a lot of truth, but when you got a simple-minded cowboy, to me, he just give up. You know, he's lost. But I've been real fortunate and been blessed to be surrounded by a bunch of good people and a lot of help. And one of those, and my wife didn't know it, is my wife. And tell you how close we are. We got the same birthday, same month, same year, same day. My birth certificate, she's 4 or 5 hours older than me, so I married an older woman. She looks after me. And I've been blessed to have her when I'm gone to help break coats and feed cattle and look after things. But you can't imagine what a tremendous honor it is. Like Rufus said, you can't believe what an honor it is to receive something like this and to be in a family like this. And looking at Jim and Mary Jo, and I've known them for years and years, and went quail hunting with Jim, and it's a tremendous honor. And we started out with Buster Welch and Larry Reeder and and on the cattle committee, and John Carter was on it. You got John Carter on your side. You don't need anybody else on your side. Now he's for you, and same with Terry Riddle. If you hadn't been named out by Terry Riddle, you hadn't been named out. We were together in cattle. A friend of ours had some cattle, and he'd been trying to get us to use these cattle for 2 or 3 years, and finally we went and looked at them and decided to use them. And so I was getting different reports from different people that this man was having trouble. The cattle were out in the game. And some of these farmers didn't want to let their cattle go unless he paid, was paying $20 a head then, and he was going to have to pay him $10 a head, and he'd keep $10 a head, and some of them wanted more, and he didn't want to trade with these folks. So, but anyway, he made a deal with us on the contract and signed the contract. And I'd call Terry about every week, and I said, Terry, this guy don't look too good. I'm getting reports from up there in that country that we're not going to get these cattle. He made trade with these farmers yet. So Terry, he'd call me back. He said, oh yeah, everything's good. I said, okay, that's fine. So when we got ready to get these cattle and stuff, the first day he had a place of his own, and we was getting all his, and there wasn't no problem. Well, that day was gathering cattle, and that man, there's another farmer there come up, and he was trying to make a deal with the cattle for the next day. He hadn't made a deal for the cattle for the next day. So I called Terry. I said, Terry, this guy is trying to make a deal with this farmer right now for the cattle for the next day. And so Terry said, oh my gosh. He said, let me know how this comes out. So I called Terry, and he said, well, he made a deal. We got the cattle. So we sent them in, and so I told Terry, I said, we're going to have to run short. We're going to have to get in some cattle that we looked at, we'd set aside, we didn't want to get into because we're going to have to start some limousines off of them and stuff later on. But we had everything covered there. So I told Terry we're going to have to get into it. Terry said, well, I didn't make, I'm not going to show today. Where are y'all going to meet? And I told him we're going to meet at the cafe out of the other side of the buoy and eat breakfast that morning and go to the cattle. So we met out there, and Terry said, I'll be there. And so this man, I don't want to call his name, and he's a good guy. You know, he just, this first time he flew with us, and he's passed on now. And you understand why, if Terry ate you out, he'd be passed on. But we're sitting there eating breakfast, and Terry come in and started talking to this man that had the cattle. And he was trying to explain to Terry what the deal was, and Terry wasn't taking this too well. And directly he laid it on him, and I've been putting up with him for 3 or 4 days, and I was kind of aggravated at him anyhow too. But the time Terry really got through with him, I was feeling sorry for this man. And we went out and gathered the cattle, and I told Terry, I said, you start the cattle, and I'll run the starting gate. We're going to give them a double whammy. Whatever you like, whatever you don't like, you cut them off, and you holler in and die. And I'll start running the starting gate, and what I don't like, you miss or something like that, I'll cut them too. So we got them 2 ways. So when we got through, we had the right numbers and stuff, and Terry said, well, that's all right there. And this guy said, well, I need to go in there and cut the heavy end off these heifers to go to the feedlot. He said, well, Terry said, what? And he said, no. He said, no. And I'd already had some more cattle located. We have to have them around Barry, Texas, and we'd go there and get them cattle sent in. Well, Terry said, now, we're going to use these cattle, all of them, and you're going to stay out of them, or we're going to go somewhere and leave all these cattle here. This guy thought of me, and he said, well, let's go ahead and load it. And one of these farmers that wouldn't let us, he had to make a deal with him, let him come up and let him have the cattle and stuff, said, well, if y'all were short a few cattle, I'll let y'all have some cattle. And you can't imagine what Terry told this farmer. I couldn't repeat it. You don't want to know. But and when we were starting, the young man had a border collie dog. And this border collie dog was kind of in the way. And I was fixing to say something to him. And Terry spoke up and said, who owns this border collie dog? And this young man said, I guess he thought Terry was going to brag on him. Terry says, and this boy says, I do. And this young man did. And Terry says, well, take him and go tie him up somewhere where his feet won't touch the ground. That's the kind of people you've got backing. There's Gold, Bronx and Chris and all of them, you know. and Kathy Dawn and Lenny Burks, we went and looked at some cattle for a football player. And Lenny Burks and Kathy Dawn was in the back seat. And where is Lenny? Is she here? Okay. I'm going to tell you this on you, Linda. And I'm not going to call this football player's name. But he was sitting in the middle. And Lenny was having to get out and close the gates. Every time she'd get out, I know she was getting closer to the back door. And she'd be getting closer to the back door every time she'd open the gate. So when we got through, and I asked Lindy, and we started looking, I said, what are you doing sitting close to the back door? And he said, well, and we approved the cameras, and we're going to use them, Lindy did. So he said, well, he kept sliding his hand over where I'd sit on his hand, and I kept moving. He must have done a good job because we used his camera. All of you are great people. You're wonderful people. It's good to have this many friends, I promise. And Bill, you're one among them. Thank you.